All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show. Before we get into everything tonight, I want to let you guys know that this show and all our shows here at 12 to 2 Sports Chicago are not possible without our plethora of great sponsors that we have here. Nick and Ivy Brewing Company, the Jonathan Durin team over at Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group, August Doozer running for the 37th District here, Susie Sheehan and her State Farm office, White Oak Farm Venue, Berardi Law, all these guys, the Cupcakery Bakery. There's so many sponsors, guys. All of them are fantastic, and we're going to get in all that tonight, too. We got a great show here tonight for all of you. I got my guy, Mike Hughes from the ASAP Network going to hang out with me. We got Brendan Sugrue coming on with us tonight. It's going to be a great time. I cannot wait to talk some Bears, guys. It's been a week, and it's been a week. So let's see what happens from here on out. But guys, we'll be back here. Let's play this fucking intro and we'll get everything ready to rock and roll. See you guys here in a minute. You are listening to 1252 Sports Entertainment. Parental discretion may be advised.
Woo! It's about that time. FatMike, Chicago Sports. Yeah. Woo. Finally here. Shot City Sports is right here. Updates on news, get it here. No rumors, cause we keep it real. FatMike. Sit back, relax, sugar beer one of them nights.
Hey, this is Carmen DeFalco from ESPN Chicago, and you're listening to the Fat Mike Sports Show.
Hey, this is Dave Richard from CBS Sports, and you're listening to the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show.
Hi, this is Jesse Rogers from the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Merkin, the longtime White Sox beat writer for MLB.com and proud graduate of the University of Michigan. You're listening to me on the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show.
This is Chuck Arfine, and you are listening to the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show. It's the best.
Hey, what's up? This is Greg Braggs Jr. from Braggs in the Stands, and you're listening to my guys on the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show. Boom!
Hey everyone, Freddie Huebner from ESPN 1000. Great to be on the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show. I'm Dan Zaborski, senior writer for Fangraphs, and you're listening to Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show.
I'm JJ Stankovich from NBCSportsChicago.com and the Undercenter podcast, and you are listening to the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show.
Hey Sparkle, you know what I listen to? It's the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show with my guy, Fat Mike. If you listen anywhere else, no jock. Listen to Fat Mike. The Fat.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show. Thank you for everybody joining in and chiming in with us tonight. We got a ton of stuff to get into. We have a great show for you guys tonight. Not only is it myself on here, but it's also my guy Mike Hughes over from the ASAP Network. I'm really pumped up to have him join me tonight to talk to Brendan Sugrue from the Midway Minute from the Bear Down Report. It's going to be a great show. We're going to be talking everything Bears here. And I, for one, am excited because there's some shit finally popping off. So before we keep on going here, I'm going to introduce my guy, Mike Hughes. Mike, welcome to the stream, man. Welcome to the Fat Mike Show. Thanks for joining me tonight, man. I really do appreciate it. How we doing?
Dude, we're doing amazing today. Matt Nagy's finally fired. Ryan Pace is gone. You know, he's not becoming the president of the Chicago Bears, so that's a plus. I'm here with Fat Mike. It's an honor. It's always been a pleasure. I've been watching the show for a long time. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate you joining us. So like we were just talking about, man, some big news happened Monday morning. Black Monday is what everybody calls it. It's, you know, it was a treat for all of us for about 4 hours is what it was. We first announced that it was Matt Nagy being fired at about 9:10 in the morning Central Standard Time here. And about 20 minutes later, breaking news popped across on ESPN Radio, ESPN 1000 here with my guys Cap and Jay Hood saying that Ryan Pace was fired. So it was everybody was gung-ho. Everybody's been on the ball right now talking about up and coming coaching candidates. What can we do at GM? What can we do here? What can we do there? And that 4 hours of my life, I was actually really happy, Mike. I was super happy because my mind was rolling as a Chicago Bear fan. What can the Bears do here?
Right.
But we were only happy here in Chicago for about 4.5 hours till George McCaskey took the podium on his presser. Pretty much reiterated that he's the final say and Ted Phillips isn't going anywhere. Ted Phillips is going to be the man behind the curtain on the Arlington Heights build, and that's fine. That's great. Hopefully he stays there. Hopefully they don't bring him back into any fold of decision making for the Chicago Bears. But that's where we stand. Mike, what's your opinion on everything that happened on Monday morning?
A blessing and a curse. The thing is, with the way I look at it, and I feel like many other people look at it, is the same way. It's great. You always do the right thing, and the right thing is to fire the people who made the mess. Now, for the people who are listening who have kids, when your kid makes a mess, you blame the kid. But the problem is you never blame the parent that allows the kid to make that mess. And that is Ted Phillips. Ted Phillips brings in the people who make messes, whether that be Emery, whether that be Pace, whether that be so on and so forth down the line. You know the drill. Trestman, Fox, now Nagy. The list keeps going. And it's perfectly fine to fire the guys you feel are held accountable. But you're never firing the guy who hires the guys. And that's the biggest problem with me right now as I'm looking at it from that perspective is when you want a change of culture, when you want a change of scenery, you need to clean the entire house, not just the basement and the attic. You need to get into the root of the house and understand what the problem is. Now, obviously, the McCaskeys aren't going anywhere. They can't fire themselves. They won't fire themselves. But they need to bring in somebody who understands the game of football because God rest his soul, Hallis is gone. And the McCaskeys don't really know anything about the game. At least that's how I really look at it. That's how I view it. George himself, I feel like, is a businessman. At the end of the day, he understands business. But someone who actually understands the game and what it takes to hire people who understand the game is very different because he's just hiring either yes men, just like we see with the Ryan's Dwarfs, or he's just hiring businessmen who aren't going to break his pockets too hard.
Well, and the thing that I've been a big advocate of all the entire time during this whole coaching thing, I was on the board last year saying that I thought Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace both needed to be fired after their second 8-8 season, where they backdoored themselves into a playoffs, and everybody was all gung-ho about it being your typical meathead Chicago Bear fan. I am not that guy. I call shit what it is. If that's a piece of shit right in front of me, it's not flowers. It's a piece of shit. It's a pile of shit. And it's exactly what the Bears were last year backing into that playoff spot. And I was the advocate of saying that both Pace and Nagy needed to go last year. And now we go through this year, and the advocate, I was the number one advocate and, go team, go, raw guy, go, of saying the Bears don't know what they're doing at the ownership role. Okay. They need a football guy.
Right.
In my personal opinion, everybody's been asking me, well, what would you do, Fat Mike? What would you do with this team? What would you do? If it was up to me, Mike, the Bears know where they lack. They know that they're businessmen, okay? They know that. Ted Phillips knows he's a businessman. George McCaskey knows he's a businessman. The Bears needed to hire kind of like what the Cubs did, with a director of football operations, director of baseball operations. That's what the Bears needed to do. Now, who that person is, fuck if I know, because I don't know. But I know it's definitely not Bill Polian, who's 30 years removed from the game of drafting Peyton Manning, 20 years removed of the game drafting Peyton Manning, and hiring Tony Dungy.
Right.
That isn't your go-to thing. From the time that Peyton Manning was drafted to the time that is today, as we sit here and speak at 7:09 Central Standard Time here in Chicago on January 12th, 2022, the game has changed drastically since that time. It's no longer having those guys of Edgerrin James where you can run the rock 300 times a year. Priest Holmes, Jamal Lewis. It's not that style of game. The game back then, a defense can win you a Super Bowl.
Right.
Today, all you're looking for is one stop. That's all you're looking for. You're looking to stop the opposing team one time. That way you can get the ball back to win the game. That's how Tom Brady's won Super Bowls.
Right. And that was my biggest thing, Mike, is and I've said it time and time again, and I'm going to get some hate for it, but the monsters of the Midway and the definition of them needs to change. That identity is, it's a front seven, and the guy I got behind me and the guys I got they're right here. It's definitely a situation to where you love it. You love to watch it. You love to see Akeem Hicks. You love to see Dan Hampton. You love to see Mongo, Team Mongo for life. But it's definitely something to where you look at it, and you say, that's not going to get you anywhere nowadays. The monsters of the Midway need to be Justin Fields, David Montgomery, and bring in, I don't even care, Chris Godwin or whatever wide receiver.
Moody, Mike Williams, anybody. You're right.
Devontae Adams is a monsters of the Midway. Like, that is something you need to look at.
He's been killing us here for the last 5 years. That's for damn sure.
Exactly. He is feared. And that's the same concept with Green Bay is how are they getting the NFC Championship every year, Mike?
I'll tell you how. You want my God's honest opinion?
Yeah.
They get there because the NFC North is the easiest division in football.
Exactly.
And,
they have a high-powered offense.
Not only that, but to break away from the monsters of the Midway thing, what we have here in Chicago, Mike, is the shit stains of the Midway with this team over the last 30 years. We have 8 winning seasons. 8 winning seasons, guys, in 30 years. Now, I'm not taking 500 seasons because that's not a winning season. That's a tied-off season.
Right.
All right. You have 8 winning seasons in 30 years. Something needs to fucking change. There needs to be big change, big time.
Right.
There has to be. It's just one of those things.
I think you hit that on the head.
He's not it, my buddy. This Troy Polamalu's he's a troll, but I love Troy. Troy's a good dude. He's a good dude. But it's one of those things, Mike, where it's for all those guys, for all these Chicago fans and all these guys that think Aaron Rodgers is going to go somewhere at the end of the year, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
he's not going anywhere.
Right.
This report, you seen him yesterday, where who Boomer Esiason called him out talking shit, saying, well, he'll protest the Super Bowl if they make their kid. No, that's not going to happen. All right. But the reason why Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere is just because exactly what I just stated. He plays in the easiest division, easiest division in all of football. Plain and simple. It really is the easiest division. The Detroit Lions are trash. The Bears have been trash. And the Minnesota Vikings, they just can't. They always have these high expectations, but they always shit the bed.
Right.
So Aaron Rodgers has the easiest path to the playoffs to put him into contention for a Super Bowl.
And that's my biggest thing too, though, Mike, is you hit it on the nail. You look at the Bulls. The Bulls were constructing something nice. They were doing something productive, but we can't get over the hump until Gar Forman and John Paxson are gone. Bring in Arturas. Arturas drafted Jokic in the second round. He's bringing in Jamal Murray. He's bringing in all these guys, and they're doing their thing. You bring in Billy Donovan, a coach of the year, a certified guy who brought a Chris Paul nameless team with the Thunder. They brought them into the playoffs. They had a 1% chance. You brought a structure of what can win, and then you built upon it later. You saw the same thing with the Cubs and Theo Epstein. I'll even give Rick Hahn a little credit. He traded away everybody, and he banked on his prospects. And he brings in La Russa, who's won championships before, and I can even give him a little bit of credit there. But it's to the point to where with the Bears, you're just going to hire another businessman, and it's going to be a different name and the same face of Monsters of the Midway.
Right. And then, Alan chimes in here. Now Alan was on here with us before we started the show. He says, who's making the football operations hire if you go that route? And that's the problem. Who the fuck knows? But somebody you have to have you have to have somebody who knows football decide these hires. So, I mean, okay, so if it is Bill Polian, that you're bringing in here as an advisory role, as an advisory mercenary.
Mike, really quick, thought that Lamar Jackson would be a better wide receiver than a quarterback. So why are we even asking for his opinion?
Yeah, no, I understand, man. Listen, like Theo Epstein said, to go on that point there, to be a really good general manager, to be a really good director of operations, you're hitting on about 55%, 60% of your actual picks. Okay, and that's being a very, very good GM, very, very good, very, very good general manager.
Right.
But who's making that decision? Okay, fine. So if you bring in Bill Polian here as your mercenary hire guy, okay, to hire a GM,
out or recruiter,
or like a recruiter, fine. But then after that, you let that guy decide everything. Bill Polian's hire is now done. He did his job. Here's your check, Bill. Get the fuck out of Dodge. We no longer need you. Then that football operations guy, then that director of football operations, he hires your GM. Mm-hmm. And then your director of football operations and your GM, I know everybody's going to hate when I say this, collaborate on hiring your next head coach is what you need to do. That's exactly the problem. And that the Bears aren't going to do that. In that presser on Monday, Mike, I saw this too. I hope you saw it as well. George McCaskey straight up said, if we find a head coach that we like, we're going to hire him before we make a decision on a GM. That's not how this fucking works.
Right.
That's not how you run a franchise.
Right.
And I understand that he even said, I'm a fan. Well, if you're a fan, you would understand this.
Act like one and step away. That's what you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Obviously he knows that he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Right.
Get him out of there. This team drives me nuts, Mike. It pisses me off to the fullest.
Right. And my biggest point is, we were on ASAP in the morning and they were asking me about it because they The team over there is great. They put a snippet of me the last 16 weeks. We do this thing at the end of every episode. Final minute, you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Every final minute, I just go fire Nagy. So they put a compilation of every time I said it and then asked Mike, what would you do moving forward? And I meant this when I said it. As president of operations, get fucking Peyton Manning for all I care. At least he fucking understands.
You know what, Mike? This is just me, and I'm not giving out names. I'm not giving out names. This stays, and I'm going to say it because I even asked the person who I spoke to about this if I could bring it up on air tonight. And this is something that I wanted to talk about tonight. George McCaskey. Supposedly, guys, this is I don't know. We don't have a breaking news sounder here. I know Alan's got it on his thing where it's like
soundboard right now.
Okay. But one of the people, a group of the people at the Chicago Bears had asked to take over the advisory role, the role that is Bill Polian right now.
Right.
Is rumored. Now, I don't know if this is true, but the person that I have spoken to has heard the same exact thing. He spoke to the McCaskeys and the group up here at Chicago, spoke with the Mannings, and the Mannings turned everything down. They didn't even want to take the phone call.
Yeah, I bet they
That's
did.
the rumor that I've heard. That's the rumor that I heard that another person who's in the business has heard. I'm not going to give a name because I've only seen this report once, and I haven't seen it since.
Right.
So there we go. So that's
where you have the validity to it, though. Is
right. I mean, that's exactly that. I mean, and I trust this guy. He's big in the Chicago sports scene. I trust this person genuinely. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's heard the same thing, and the Mannings turned everything down. Now, I don't know who else has heard this. I don't know who else has seen this, but that's my little breaking news under that I had stuffed in my back pocket tonight.
Right.
All right.
It's
So
kind of
if the
weird.
Mannings are turning this down, Mike. If the Mannings are turning this down, and anybody else who's turning this down, if the only guy that you can go out there and get is a 79-year-old Bill Polian,
right,
who's been 25 plus years removed from the NFL game. All right, great. He did the Marv Levy thing, went to 4 Super Bowls, lost all 4 of them. Congratulations. I get it, Bill. Good job. Okay. Right. You made a decision on drafting Peyton Manning over Ryan Leaf. That's a fucking no-brainer. Even then it was a no-brainer.
Right.
Okay. How good can this guy be? What's going on? Now we see, and this is the other thing. We're going to talk to, again, my guy, our guy here, Brendan Sugrue here. He's coming on here with us here soon from the Midway Minute, the Bear Down Report. He's all over the place. He's on top of this shit like stink on shit. He's on top of the Bear stuff all the time, and I'm really happy to bring him on. We see this all the time. Harbaugh for Chicago. We see Leslie Frazier, bring back Nick Fangio, blah, 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 or Vic Fangio, blah, 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 blah. And it's all over the place.
Right.
It's all over the place. Mike, before we bring on Brendan here, we got to give a quick word from our sponsors, man, because you know what? Without these guys, we don't have a show. Plain and simple. We don't have a show here. So, guys, give us a couple minutes. We'll be right back. And when we come back, we'll have Brendan with us, ready to talk more and more Bears. Here we go.
Hello, this is Paul from Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. We are located at 1026 South State Street in historic downtown Lockport, Illinois. We are very excited to be partnering up with the FatMike Chicago Sports Show, as well as the 1252 brand, because we are one of the few Chicagoland breweries that embrace sports and sports culture. Come in for a fresh brewed beer made right here in Lockport while catching the game of your favorite team. Stay for the live music that we have booked every weekend, or just come for a cozy atmosphere to enjoy a good conversation with a friend, loved one, or complete stranger. Nick and Ivy makes you feel right at home no matter what the occasion is. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. Visit our website for our up-to-date tap list or to go shopping on our online store at nickivybrewing.com. That's NIKIVY brewing.com. Come in today for a fresh brewed beer born and raised in Lockport, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Darren, licensed real estate broker with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group in Homer Glen. Are you looking to buy or sell? Have you been disappointed in the past? The Jonathan Darren team with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group focuses on providing you with a concierge level of service during the process of buying or selling. We are a service-oriented team with a fresh and professional approach to selling real estate. Our goal is to combine knowledge, skills, and passion to exceed our clients' expectations, and most of all, We truly care. We are a knowledgeable real estate team focused on offering expertise and innovative solutions for our clients. The Jonathan Darren team has 5 full-service real estate brokers and a dedicated full-time marketer servicing all of Chicagoland. We will customize a detailed plan around your timeline for a sale, purchase, investment, estate, or other needs. Real estate transactions can be stressful, but don't need to be. Let us handle it for you. Visit our website, homesbyjdt.com, or call 708-308-1938 today. Expect better in real estate. Choose the Jonathan Darren team.
Hey, Susie, thanks for hooking me up with the FatMike markdown on my insurance rates at State Farm. This is awesome.
No, Mike. The FatMike markdown is not a real thing.
I don't believe that for a second. Let me repay you the favor and tell you and all my friends about the FatMike markdown.
Okay, well, that's just fine, considering that State Farm just gives everyone surprisingly great rates.
You heard it here first, folks. So give Susie Sheehan over at State Farm Agency a call and ask for the FatMike markdown. It's the best.
For the real deal, give us a call at 815-306-0184 or go to SusieSheehan.com to request a quote. My team at the Susie Sheehan Agency is here to help with all of your insurance needs for auto, home, and life, and we service Illinois and Indiana. Also, if you mention the FatMike markdown, $10 will be donated to a local charitable organization through our Quotes for Good program in your name. Remember, that's 815-306-0184 or SusieSheehan.com. Thanks so much.
Get on it, everybody.
Woo-hoo.
All right, guys, we are back. Thank you so much to those sponsors, Nick and Ivy Brewing Company, the Jonathan Darren team out in Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group out in Homer Glen, and Susie Sheehan, my girl, who gets me out of everything insurance-wise, my home, my auto, my boat, my RV, everything. She's the best. But, guys, here we go again. All right, I'm bringing on our guy here. This guy, I'm super happy to have him on. I'm super excited to have him on. Brendan Sugrue. Brendan, I've been practicing your last name all day today. Like, I think people fuck up my last name. All right, Morawski. My last name's a bad last name. Everybody calls it Morawski. Man, your name's a tough one, man. Welcome. How's it going, man? Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Man, thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited. And you got it right. I could tell at first. I was like, oh, he's trying, but I get it. Hey, you got that classic Polish last name too, so yeah, I get it.
Well, the thing that helps pronounce these last names like this is because we got that South Side accent where it's not Chicago, it's Chicago. It's Chicago. You want a Chicago style hot dog? You want Chicago? It's not Chicago. Everybody always fucks that up. It's Chicago. That's the name of the city. But Brendan, I'm really happy to have you here. Brendan, you're from Midway Minute. You're from the Bear Down Report. A lot of shit going on here over the last couple of days, man. Like we were talking right before we had you on. A lot of things going on here in this coaching search. On Monday, they fired both Pace. They fired Nagy. Finally, it's about time. All right, it's about time. But now there's a bunch of candidates. It seems like they're leaving no stone unturned. Brendan, what do we expect here? What are we thinking here? What's going to happen?
Oh man, what's going to happen? That's the big question. First off, I am really happy that they are leaving no stone unturned. I mean, you want to cast a wide net, see how many different variety of candidates you can get, from potential first-time head coaches like Brian Dable to potential retreads like Leslie Frazier, maybe even a college coach or two, who knows. But it is nice to see them try and see, like, okay, what are we looking for? Are we looking for that leader of men type? Are we looking for that quarterback guru type? Maybe both. And then in conjunction with the GM hires, I mean, it's so tough. I mean, you got to have an idea of who you want to bring in while you're interviewing GMs, and then kind of figure out what direction they want to go. But it really is so hard to say, like, what direction they want to go, because the McCaskies are just unpredictable. I look back to 2013 when they had, I think it was like 12 or 13 candidates that they brought in, everybody under the sun. And there were names like Bruce Arians, there were names like Mike McCoy, and they went with Mark Trestman. So clearly, even when you cast a wide net and get all of the best candidates out there, potentially, you can still fuck it up pretty hard.
Right. And Brendan, now we heard in that presser, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off. You got the next one, my man. I'm sorry.
I wasn't saying
go ahead. In that presser on Monday, we seen George McCaskey say that if they find a head coaching candidate before they find a GM, they will make that hire. Is that the right or wrong way to go about setting your team up for the future?
I think it's the wrong way, personally. I think like I said, I think it's great that you're having the interviews and you're having an idea of who these guys are while you're doing the GM interviews. But I want to get the GM candidate figured out first. And let's say, I mean, we've got the names in front of us, whoever it is, say, okay, hey, we're down to like these 2 or 3 guys. We really like them. We obviously want your input and you're the person that's going to be tied to them. So let's bring them back, make the final decision, and pair you guys at the hip. This is exactly, well, it's not exactly, but it's kind of what happened in 2015. You have Ryan Pace come in and he has an idea of who he wants, but a coach was forced on him in John Fox with ownership. And, the reports are out there. It seems pretty accurate to me. And that didn't go well because Ryan Pace left John Fox out of so many decisions. And it wasn't until Matt Nagy that was actually Ryan Pace's hire. So are you really going to have a guy that comes in and then you're basically going to stick him with the coach for 2 to 3 years at least? And essentially it may not work because you may not gel or vibe together. I think it's the wrong decision.
I think so too. Mini Mike, it's all you, buddy.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off of that, though, it's one of those things where it's like you can ask Doug Peterson, Brian Daboll, and many others as many questions as you want, but are you even asking the right questions? What questions would that GM that you're later going to hire what would he have had? What would he have had to ask Brian Daboll? What would he have been able to input into that kind of interview process? And so my question for you, Brendan, is really, when you look at that, do you see that as one of a very big red flag that you don't even care to see, what your GM might want to ask this guy? You're going to force feed him. And do you think that's kind of where the fall even started with Fox and Pace to begin with?
It is, in my opinion, it is kind of a red flag. I'm not sure if that's where the fall started because that was kind of a surprise firing with John Fox. And I was on board with it too. I was like, you know what? We need somebody who can stabilize things after the Trestman debacle. John Fox was a very successful and very stable coach that could come in and at the very least stabilize the team and make them, I'd say, competitive again. But, they are, with this search firm that they have, or I guess with Bill Polian and Soup Campbell and Tanisha Wade, they at least have, and I know we're ragging on Bill Polian a lot, but they have more voices in the room now. They have more opinions who can ask the right questions. And I put a tweet out that some people were upset at because I said, the Bears coaching search is in the hands of a 79-year-old Bill Polian and a guy named Soup. And I only said that because George McCaskey just kept, he's like, oh, Soup's great. Soup's great. I'm like, his name's Lamar Campbell, okay? And he's a very, very intelligent person. He does it really seems like he does really well with the player development with the Chicago Bears. He's somebody who would be able to ask the right questions.
Right.
So I feel a little bit better that they're involved in the process. But again, they're not the ones that are going to be actually making the decisions with, in the case of the GM. So that's kind of, it's better, but it's still not where I think it needs to be.
Speaking of the GM search, Brendan, we got a lot of names coming in. Like we said, the Bears are leaving no stone unturned. They're pretty much requesting interviews all over the NFL. Morocco Brown in Indianapolis, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah out in Cleveland. We got Rand Carthen out of the 49ers, Glenn Cook, VP of offensive player personnel out of the Browns, Ed Dodds, the Colts assistant GM, Omar Khan out of the Steelers, and Wolf up there out of New England. We've been leaving no stone unturned on that side of things. But of those names, I know that there's quite a bit of names there that I had just mentioned. And I know trying to figure this out and trying to figure out the best candidate is kind of hard because there's so many names. Of those names, which do you feel would be the best fit for the Bears?
I got 3 names that I really like. First off, Ed Dodd with the Colts that you mentioned. He's somebody he's no BSer. And the fact that the Bears are giving him so much consideration is, in my opinion, a good step in the right direction, because when you remember back to the 2015 hiring, Chris Ballard was a finalist, but Chris Ballard told them that some things that they didn't really like. And Ed Dodd is kind of cut from that same tree. It's interesting. They're going with 2 candidates under the Chris Ballard tree at this point. So Ed Dodd's had a ton of success with the Colts. I love his mentality of just the no BS. Here's what I want. Here's when I want it. Here's what I want to do. It seems like he's a good collaborator, and I know we're sick of that word, but I mean, it's serious. You really need that in an NFL front office. Omar Khan feels like one of those like, hey, this guy shouldn't be available, but he is, and let's see if we can get him, because he's been with the Steelers forever, just like everybody with that organization. He was supposedly going to get the GM job from Colbert, but that's not going to happen. And I remember thinking this with Eric DaCosta back in 2015 with the Ravens. He was the assistant GM at that time before he became the GM with the Ravens. And I'm like, this guy, he's been with the organization forever, a ton of success. He's ready for a GM role. You got to go out and get him. And so the fact that his name surfaced really excites me. And then the other one is Rick Smith. And Rick Smith, I feel like it's easier to judge the former general managers because it's kind of a clear cut picture of what they've done, what they've succeeded at, what they haven't, because they've been running the show. But Rick Smith's a guy that I've been high on for a little over a year now, since there's been rumors that he's been wanting to come back. I mean, look at the draft history: J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, of course, Deshaun Watson before he took his leave of absence, DeAndre Hopkins
getting jerked off over every strip club in Houston. Yeah.
I mean, not gonna lie, I don't think anybody saw that coming back in 2017.
But it makes the Mitchell Trubisky draft a lot better. It really
a little different, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So
continue.
yeah, I would say Rick Smith is definitely up there, and the fact that he has mutual interest is very key. So we'll see what happens, but I'm impressed. I'm happy. I'm cautiously optimistic with the candidates so far.
Right. And you said that though, my bad, Mike, but you said you're cautiously optimistic. And is that because a part of you does understand that there's a good chance they get Morocco just because they're comfortable with him? They've had him before, and they seem to be just treading in that direction of, oh, we're going to bring back Fangio. We're going to bring back this. We're going to do this, because they don't like real change. And you kind of brought that up. And my question is to you there is, do you think that's more of something to where McCaskey, George himself, has to open up and understand where he's going wrong? Or do you think it's more of a longevity of it's Ted Phillips, it's everybody throughout the entire organization that just needs to understand? We talked about it a little bit earlier, that the monsters of the Midway, like what you're building right now, that ship has sailed, and that's not what the NFL is anymore. And is that to you more of ownership, or is that everybody in the entire facility?
Oh, I think that's everybody in the entire facility, including ownership. I mean, we talk about George a lot, but there's the board of advisors or board of directors that he has. And I just loved the comment coming out of the presser where he's like, yeah, I talked to the board and they still want me to be the chairman. I'm like, they're your family, bro. Of course they're going to do it. And nobody else wants it. Who else is going to take that job? Like, George has been doing this now for 11, 12 years with very, very minimal success. So we do like to crap on George a lot. And I mean, deservedly so, especially hearing him talk, but it goes all throughout the organization because those people have been there for so long. The board isn't going anywhere. Ted Phillips isn't going anywhere. And they're the ones making those decisions. So yeah, it's from the top down. It really, really trickles.
Now, Brendan, one thing I want to touch back on there. You were talking about Ballard with Indy and how we're now interviewing two of the candidates that we have at the GM position are interviews with guys that are with the Colts. Do you think that's more of a Ballard play or more of a Bill Polian play, since he's so tight with the Indianapolis Colts organization?
I mean, it's both for sure. I think, it's hard to say because Polian, there's also Bill's ties too with Leslie Frazier.
Exactly. And we're going to touch on that. Leslie Frazier, Brian Dable. Yeah. I mean, it's all over the place right now, but that's one thing that kind of like made me wonder the same exact thing that I asked you. And I couldn't put my finger on it either. Is it Bill Polian, or is it the fact that the Bears realized they fucked up on missing on Ballard? That's my key. And I can't make heads or tails of it. I really can't. Now you said with the board being his family, I thought that was hysterical because you nail it right on the head with McCaskey. The board still wants me here when all the members are still McCaskey's and some random other asshole in Ted Phillips. This team is driving me nuts, Brendan. It's killing me. Like, I've been a Bear fan for a long time. Okay. And in the last 30 years, they've had 8 winning seasons. I'm not talking 8-8 seasons. I'm talking actually above 500 seasons. They've had 8 in 30 years. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. How do we as Bear fans going forward invest ourselves into this team, whether we're diehards or not? How can we put ourselves going forward? I mean, I'm just a fan sitting here, Brendan. Mike, you're the same exact thing. We don't get paid to do this. I'm sitting here, I watch the Bears every single Sunday. And to be honest, I'm happy that they're fucking over with, where I don't have to watch them anymore this year. But this team drives me nuts. But how can we as Bear fans, and my listeners here and everybody who's going to download this show, how can we as Bear fans continue to put our faith and our hopefulness into the Chicago Bear team if they fuck this up again?
I mean, Mike, I'm a big Bears fan as well. Like I'm doing this. I've been doing this for like 3 years now. But we're all fans when it comes down to it. We want to see this team be successful. And this period of time, you get it's hard because some people are celebrating, some people are hopeful. I was sad to see Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy go, not because I was mad or that I thought they needed to keep their jobs. Obviously not. But it just was the final proof that this era didn't work. And we invested so much time in that, and we were so hopeful, and we got duped in 2018 thinking that this was finally going to be something that was going to lead to sustained success. And that just didn't happen. And now we're starting from square one again. It feels like we've done this now like 3 times in the last 10 years, essentially. Right. So I guess my thinking is at some point.
To cut you off really quick, and I apologize for doing so. It's not just this era. It's the last 3 decades that didn't work.
It's every one of them.
It's the last 3 decades, the last 30 years. This has not worked. 8 winning seasons in 30 years is just simply not good enough. And I apologize. Go right ahead.
No, it's not. I mean, you can argue that the Angelo era was decent in the fact where there were multiple winning seasons, and at the very least, there were some playoff victories. But it's not what we want. It's not what we're striving for, which is Super Bowl championships. Right. I mean, at some point, the McCaskies are going to find the right football person, and he's going to make the change. He or she, who knows?
Like our guy Alan Bratcher says, he's like, pray that they strike dumb luck. Exactly. Alan nailed it.
That is it. I'm dead serious, because these owners are all the same. I shouldn't say all. A lot of them grew up with this. They're fans. George just said the quiet part out loud, and they were able to find the people to put in place to restructure the whole organization, and then things finally get better. It's a trickle-down effect. Some of it is luck. It's hard because you got to hope that they finally get there. But I'm with you, man. I don't have an answer for that because we're in the same boat. We keep loving this team. We keep cheering for this team. We hold on to all of those little moments that we think that might lead us to that sustained success, and it just craps all over us in the long run. It sucks.
A Fat Mike show, guys, here with Brendan Sugrue, hanging out with us, talking Bears football, talking GM search, talking coach search. And Brendan, you're not wrong in saying that all the owners are pretty much the same. They're all silver-haired old white guys. All right, we need somebody to come in here with a little bit of diversity and a little bit of something to change the game plan of what's going on in today's NFL. And that's something that I feel like the Bears are really putting forward in the diversity aspect of things, where a lot of people have called them, racist owners on not drafting a black quarterback and yada, 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 yada. All that's bullshit. I think what's going on here with the Bears is they have to find that sustained success, and they don't know how to find that sustained success. And that's where we're at right now. That's exactly where we're at. And it's tough for these guys that are so old, these owners that are old, ancient, to realize what today's game has become over the last 15, 10, even 5 years, on how the game has completely transitioned. Is there any way possible that you see this Bear team being a transitional look upon franchise where it's like, they changed something with this next hire? Like they rewrote the book with this next hire, whether it be at GM, whether it be at head coach. They figured it out. They did something different and diverse, and it panned off, or they did something different and diverse and it shit the bed. But either way, do you see something like that happening?
I think I do. And that just could be blind optimism. But again, with having people like Lamar Campbell and Tanisha Wade involved with the search committee. I mean, I look back, it was pretty much Ernie Accorsi, I believe, that was leading the front in 2015.
Yep.
Another old white guy. But now you're bringing in other voices and other people from different backgrounds. I mean, Lamar played. I should call him Soup, but I don't like calling him Soup. But anyway, he played the game. He's been with the Bears for a long time. And as we get older, as we continue to move through time, analytics become more prevalent.
Right.
More teams are adopting it. I mean, you look at some of the other front offices across the league, they have full analytic departments, research departments. And at some point, I mean, a lot of people are coming up in football this way where that's what they're learning. And the old guard is changing. And I think and it's sort of dumb luck. At some point, the Bears are going to find that person to do it because, I mean, we've called them a mom and pop shop for so long. They're in that fortress of Hallis Hall. They rarely ever seek out outside opinions. And one day they step outside, they look up, and they're looking up at this insane metropolis that has just grown around them. And they're like, what the hell just happened? Because that's the way they've been operating for so long. So the more we progress and get there and just hire different people and involve different people, I think that transitional phase is going to happen.
Now, Brendan, would you? Here's how I kind of look at it, and here's where I understand your optimism, but it's the part in me that bothers me is why I'm so optimistic right now is I think we finally started to reach a point to where we didn't see it with Jay, we didn't see it with Mitch, we definitely didn't see it with Mike Glennon, and everyone else that went through the fire rink that was the Chicago Bears quarterback position. You're starting to finally see that Justin Fields is what makes people optimistic. Now, going into this offseason, here's my problem. You bring in Matt Nagy, an already established Mitchell Trubisky, and now you're in a point to where you need to bring in not only a head coach that may or may not be in on Fields. You know, obviously you're not going to say, oh yeah, I'm not in on the kid because you want the job. And the GM is the same perspective. Are you concerned that the people they might hire might not be all in on Justin Fields and making that the potential of the future? Because that's, to me, what the focus needs to be, is what it's never been. Is it's always been, let's get the front seven, let's get the running backs, let's get the weapons, and then we'll figure out the quarterback position, where now it's more of, let's groom this kid and give him, whether it be Kirk, whether it be Godwin, whether it be this, and an offensive line. Do you think that's concerning right now, that they're going to have to hit on both of them, and they're traditionally not even good at hitting on one when it comes down to getting someone who likes the quarterback they've chosen?
100%. Yes. I mean, in a perfect world, you want to believe that the person coming in is very in on Justin Fields. And I think that's going to play a big part. But as George said, it's not going to be the factor whether they get hired or not. So it is very
crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
You know, but it is, but it isn't, because with rookie quarterback contracts at this point, I mean, somebody could really get out of that contract in the next like year or two. And I don't want that to happen. I do have belief that Justin Fields can be the franchise quarterback, but it's not like the deal breaker where you have to be married to these quarterbacks like you would have prior to 2010. So it is concerning. And, you know, there was some interest with Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky. I'm sure Nagy said, hey, he's a young quarterback. I liked him coming out. I can help groom him. I can help make him the player that I think he can be. And for a hot minute, we thought that was the case, but clearly there was a disconnect. So it is a real concern. But at the same time, these coaches, they're all probably salivating over the potential that is Justin Fields, a dual threat quarterback, somebody with stardom potential. I mean, especially with this year's crop of quarterbacks that are coming out, there are no like true, just solid first rounders at this point. So, you know, it is still a selling point, but it's very possible that somebody could come in, see Justin Fields in a year and say, that's not my guy.
We're getting on we just touched on the topic of coaches and GMs, and if both of them will be salivating whether or not over Justin Fields. Of all the coaching candidates that we've scheduled interviews with, whether it be Brian Daboll, Leslie Frazier, Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, Dan Quinn. I mean, we interviewed Doug Peterman today, which I don't know why. I mean, I guess you're just doing yourself justice. Brian Flores, the dude up there up in Green Bay, and
Nathaniel Hackett.
And then, you know, there's so many guys out there that we're touching on here. Who do you think, and I know it's stupid. I know it's who what I've been asking. I sound like an owl over here. But of all the coaching candidates that we are in possession of interviews with, who do you feel is the best fit for this Chicago Bears team going forward?
I'm looking at the names because I'll just say I've been high on Brian Daboll for a long time. I think he's Bruce Arians 2.0 in the sense that he's a longtime assistant who's been in a ton of different systems. He's been with Nick Saban, Bill Belichick on multiple occasions. He's not necessarily like a Belichick guy, like, you know, a Josh McDaniels type. He's been with the late Tony Sperano. He's just been in all of these systems, and now he's taken over the Buffalo Bills offense and turned them into an absolute juggernaut. He's worked with Josh Allen to make him an MVP candidate. I mean, you look at what he's done and just the success that he's had, and the gripes on him. I understand the running game's not there. The Bills don't run the ball. It's a one-dimensional offense. They needed to bring in playmakers. You know, Brian Daboll probably had a hand in picking those guys to bring in. Like, why are you saying that's a downfall? You know, they saw the potential to bring in playmakers to make their offense better. And for the gripes about the running game, after they went through the lull in the middle of the season, Brian Daboll committed to the running game. Devin Singletary became a bell cow back for a while, and they got that team back on track. That shows the coach's ability to adapt, something we never saw from Matt Nagy. So, and I just go back to that picture of Justin Fields and Brian Daboll at the Bills preseason game. Yeah.
That was the moment for me where I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And what I would love from Brian Daboll too is if he could bring over Ken Dorsey as his offensive coordinator. Kevin Dorsey is the Bills quarterback coach. He's been just a hot name. What's that?
Miami.
Oh yeah, Miami. I believe he was the quarterback coach for Cam's MVP season. He's been coaching for a long time. It doesn't feel like he's been out of the league that long. But if you could get Brian Daboll and bring Ken Dorsey as your OC, I'm 100% all in. And then I will say I like Jim Harbaugh. I like the idea of bringing Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think people forget very quickly, not to cut you off, but 44-19-1 was his NFL record. And the only reason he left was because of the money and the houses and the cars that they offer you to do college football. You can't turn that down. You know what I mean? So it's coming to the point where, not to say Colin Kaepernick and Justin Fields are the exact same player, because they're not, but the idea of what that offense would be relatively the same. And you've seen success with Harbaugh and Colin before. So I think it would be a really good hire. But I will say this, I sent Fat Mike earlier. Brendan, I will send it to you after this if you want. The picture of Brian Daboll very recently with the full mustache, not lined up, nothing, that speaks volumes. That is a Chicago Bears tailgate. That is 90% of what the men in Chicago look like. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I don't think Byron and Harbaugh look like Chicago. This man looks and breathes like he eats a deep dish pizza and a Ditka sausage for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm here for it.
Guys, don't forget that Joe Madden won the World Series when he had his beard and mustache. It's a thing. You got to have a beard and mustache to win a championship here.
It's a thing. Are you surprised that they haven't reached out to Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator Kellen Moore yet?
A little bit. But I think Kellen Moore is one of those guys that he's a couple years off still. You know, he's still very, very young. He hasn't really been in the position that long. I think he's going to take a couple years or so. And I kind of thought that with Byron Leftwich a little bit, but being with Bruce Arians in such a successful system, as well as Tom Brady, I think that speaks volumes. But, I'm a little surprised about Kellen Moore, but he wasn't really high on my list as it is. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right.
See, I felt that way about Nagy. Like, we talk about Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy has a resume, MVP season for Mahomes, 2 Super Bowls, 1 championship. Whereas Nagy, I felt like I needed to see a little bit more of him and what he's going to do with Patrick, rather than just the name based off of Andy Reid. But Eric's actually done things with Andy, and he's done things with Patrick. And I think Eric's actually the legitimate version of what we thought Matt Nagy was going to be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I bought into the word salad that Matt Nagy had. I saw the potential. I sort of overlooked the resume where he's like, oh, he's only been an offensive coordinator for a couple years in one system. And he really only called plays for 8 games of the season. But you know what? He's been around Andy Reid enough.
It was like taking Mitch, who only played 12 games.
It seems like Ryan Pace had
I'm seeing a trend.
That was the Pace trend there. Like, I'm just looking for all the potential. So that's a good way to put it. And I'm not sure how many interviews Bieniemy's had. I know he's not getting one with the Bears yet.
Not many.
Yeah, interesting. And same with McDaniels too.
Brendan, I know. Thank you for coming on with us. I really do appreciate it. Before we cut you loose, my man, I got one lasty question for you. In your opinion and your projection, where do you think they go with GM and head coach? Who was our GM and head coach at the start of the 2022 NFL season?
Oh my gosh. Who I think they will get? I'm gonna give you 2 names. I think it's going to be. I was going to say either Morocco Brown or
we can make it easier for you. Who do you want, and then who do you think they actually give us?
Right. That was going to be my next question. Who do you think they get, and who do you want them to get? Right.
That's fair. All right, I will say I want them to get Ed Dodd and Brian Dable. Who I think they will get are, I'm going to guess Morocco Brown, and I'm going to guess Doug Peterson.
Yep.
And I'm okay. You know what? Like with Peterson, I know you're down on him. I'm okay with it.
Right.
Why I'm okay with it?
No, I said it. Like, I get it. Like, you've been to a Super Bowl. It is what it is.
Yeah. And I think that whole Philly situation just got really, really weird at the end with Carson Wentz. I don't think he deserved to be fired after that. I mean, he still took them to the playoffs after, in 2018, and, they were a drop pass away from potentially going to the NFC Championship game. But, I would love to see Ed Dodd and Brian Dable here. I think they would do some real damage.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Brendan, where can all my guys find you at? Where can we look you up? Where can we find you? How do we listen to you? What do we do?
All right. So you can find me on Twitter at Brendan Sugrue. Make sure you check out my work at bearswire.com, as well as Midway Minute. So subscribe to the newsletter. It's a daily Chicago newsletter led by Kevin Kadek. And then you could listen to me on the Bear Down Report with my guys Ryan Dangle, Jack Wright, and Patrick Sheldon. We actually just did a coaches draft that dropped earlier today.
There you go.
And it was before all the news came out about Ryan Pace. So we were kind of, thinking Ryan Pace was going to be around. But that's a fun listen if you kind of want an idea of who we're thinking the Bears might get.
Excellent. Guys, just so you know, it's pronounced Sugrue, but it's spelled Sugrue. All right, so Brendan at Brendan Sugrue, Sugrue. Brendan, thank you so much for hopping on with us, my man. It was a lot of fun having you on. Cannot wait to have you on. We got to come back on again when they figure this shit out and they hire somebody that we can bitch and moan some more about it.
Yes, please, guys. Thank you so much. I mean, it's fun to talk about the stuff, but when they actually hire somebody, you have a direction. It's so much easier. So you guys do a great show, and shout out to Fred Hubner. I know he does work with 1252 Sports.
Yes.
Great career at ESPN, and looking forward to hearing him more here.
I love Freddie. You'll be able to tune in to him on Monday night, man. He's got a new one coming out again on next Monday. So, Brendan, thank you again so much, my friend. We will talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Take care, bro. All right, Brendan Sugrue, guys. Sugrue, the guy. He comes on here, Mike. He tells us exactly what he feels, what he thinks, and how this Bears organization is being run right now. And it's sad. It's exciting. It's sad. It makes people angry. It does the whole nine. What do we do here, man? I mean, he says that was my worst case scenario. Exactly what he said. All right, I don't mind Morocco Brown as our GM going forward. I do mind Doug Peterson as our head coach.
Yeah,
I do mind that, and that's exactly where I feel that we will land. Is Doug Peterson? That's where I think we will go. That's the route I think we will go. Right. How would you feel about that, Mike? Doesn't that piss you off just in the slightest?
What gets me so tight about it is the fact that we've seen Doug Peterson in a Chicago Bears uniform before. He helped Matt Nagy all offseason. He helped him all training camp. He was there on the field working with these guys. So I kind of felt like the writing was on the walls before this season even started, that at some point, shape, or form that this guy was going to be involved with the Chicago Bears. My biggest thing with Doug is Doug doesn't understand how to lead a locker room. Doug doesn't understand how to make sure that these guys don't hear the noise. You saw that with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, where guys in the locker room were begging for Nick Foles to get the start instead of Carson at some point. And Carson felt that. And we can't have that in this point in time, and we can't have that kind of energy being brought into here. One of the biggest things is we're also looking at it from that point of view is, sure, they won the Super Bowl and they went on that little hot streak, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to give you the resume. I'm going to give you everything you did with Nick Foles, because God knows we couldn't fucking do it when we had Nick Foles. But it's to the situation and to the point to where it's like, you literally won a Super Bowl because Nick Foles caught a football. That is the real realism of it. And that's what it is. The longevity of it is you did some shit. And have you watched like the actual film of Nick walking up to the guy? Nick is the person who suggested the play. It wasn't Doug. Doug looked at him straight in the face and was like, okay, go for it. And I was just like, you have no balls. Like, if you would have already said that, that would have already been a conversation. That was Nick Foles who won them that Super Bowl. And that is exactly why he has a statue in front of their arena. And Doug Peterson is looking for a job right now. So I'm on board with Brian. I've always been on board with Brian Daboll.
So it's like Jacob Hofstedler, a guy here who's new here. Thanks for hopping in, Jake. I really do appreciate it. He says, what's truly sad is the fact that the fans will be pissed off no matter who we choose. Yep. And that's the God's honest truth. We will be. We were going to be pissed off regardless of who the Chicago Bears chooses their next GM or head coach, because we have nothing but swamp to build off of.
Right.
Over the last 30 years, we got nothing but soft, mushy mud.
And that's why
you can't build off anything. You can't build off the Nagy area. You can't build off the Trestman area. You can't build off the John Fox era, the Dick Geron era. All right, you can't build off that. And you fire Lovie Smith, who I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, bring back Lovie Smith."
Nope.
Oh my God, man! Like some of these fucking people that are saying this stuff. I mean, I get it. You guys love your Bears, and you love that Lovie was a good Chicago coach and brought him to the playoffs a bunch of times, and yada yada yada, this, that, and the other thing. But it's a retread.
Right. That double coverage shit
it doesn't happen no more, man. That game has changed. The game has changed. There wasn't quarterbacks throwing for fucking 5,000 yards in 2006 like there are today.
Right.
All right. There wasn't that guy anymore. There
weren't tight ends that are wide receivers. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There wasn't a Travis Kelce. I mean, yeah, you had Antonio Gates, but Antonio Gates was the freak of the NFL at that point.
Right.
All right, like those guys were freaks. You don't have fucking tight ends in 2008, 2009 that are running 4 5 40s. You don't have that. Like Kyle Pitts is a fucking monster. Yeah. Kyle Pitts against any defense in 2006 would be a fucking hellraiser. Right. All right, like this is the thing that I'm saying. That game doesn't work no more. You got to advance. Right now, the Bears are stuck in absolute mediocrity, and that is the worst place to be. Again this year. A year where I had zero expectations, Mike. Absolutely none. I thought that this team was gonna fucking suck. All right, and I was praying, fingers crossed, just fucking suck and get a high second round pick.
Right.
All right, because you got rid of your first for Justin Fields. You backed it up in the second by trading up and grabbing Tevin Jenkins. Okay, fine. You did what you got to do. All right, you at least tried to help Justin Fields and grabbing a couple pass protectors, a couple offensive linemen.
I like Larry and Tevin.
I love Larry Borum. I love Tevin Jenkins. All right, but who knows what's going to happen with those guys coming into the 2022 season? But just suck. Just fucking suck. That's why I was all about, listen, let Justin Fields learn, let him grow, let him do it, let him suck. Let him learn on the fly. Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions his rookie year. 28, bro. 28 interceptions. That's ridiculous. Quarterbacks don't see the league anymore after 28 interceptions if they do that now.
Look at Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen never came back.
Jameis Winston somehow threw 30 interceptions a couple of years back, and that fucking guy still has a job. I don't get it. I don't understand. All right. But the game has changed. They have to learn how to adjust and play today's game. It's no longer defense. The game has gone by the wayside. You have Justin Fields. You have Darnell Mooney. You have a good running back in David Montgomery. All right. You have pieces on the defensive side of the ball in Roquan Smith. All right. I really like Kairos Tunga. I like him. I think you're not going to miss. I don't think you're going to miss Akeem Hicks at all, especially because that fucking guy never plays.
I think Travis Gibson, Thomas Graham, and others who I've had on my show a couple of times. He's a great guy. I think those guys are cheap. And I don't think, 2-3 years from now, they're going to be that more expensive either.
Right. And there's guys out there. Like there are guys out there. Now, this is what I want to touch on with you. I know it's 8:00. We only usually run about an hour here, but I'm willing to go a little bit longer if you are, Mike. There are guys out there.
We needed this, Mike. It's fine. We can.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, man. Like this is not. I'm over it. I'm ready. I'm gearing up for next year. I'm ready to fucking kick ass. All right. And the Bears. I said to myself, the Bears don't do what I would do going into this year. That I'm fucking done. And I don't know how many times I've said this before. All right. It's just a fucking love-hate relationship with me and the Chicago Bears. Hate-love relationship. I hate to love the team. I love to fucking hate them.
It's not toxic. It's
but there are guys out there, man. There are guys out there. All right. Now, I've broken this down over the last couple of weeks, Mike, and I've said this over like the last month of what's going on with the Chicago Bear team. Let's break down the defense first. Okay. Right. You have one legitimate person in that secondary that I trust, and that guy is Jalen Johnson.
Right.
Eddie Jackson couldn't fucking tackle a tackling dummy. He couldn't cover. He couldn't fucking hit water if he fell out of a boat in coverage. Like he's terrible.
Right.
He is fucking terrible.
He got his bag and he got out.
Yeah, he got his exactly. He got his bag of money. He's done. He doesn't give a shit. All right. So there you go. Out of the 4 secondary positions in free safety, strong safety, and 2 cornerbacks, you have 1.
Right.
You have to address one of the one safety and the other cornerback position.
Right.
And at least a backup for fucking Eddie Jackson, so you can rip his ass out of there and get him out of there.
Yeah.
All right. Boom. Then let's move to the second line of defense and your linebackers. Alec Ogletree, Danny Trevathan, both getting long in the tooth, very long in the tooth. Danny Trevathan doesn't have the speed for it no more. Yeah. Alec Ogletree had a great year this year. Roquan Smith has been awesome. He's been awesome every single year. Last year, I gave so much shit to Robert Quinn.
I agree.
I ripped that man apart all over this podcast. I ripped him apart because I was like, this guy fucking sucks, blah, 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 blah. No, I was wrong. And I'm fucking 100% admitting it, Mike. I was wrong.
Yeah, I will
100%.
Robert, I've said it time and time again, and I'll do it here.
He's a fucking monster.
I'm sorry. Right.
I'm sorry. Robert Quinn, I am sorry.
Especially without Khalil. Like, that's
that's the fucking thing. You made my fucking point exactly, Mike. Especially without Khalil Mack the last half of the season here. Robert Quinn fucking shined, and he was the only guy that was creating pressure on the quarterback. Robert Quinn's a fucking stud.
It proves that he was legitimately hurt last year.
Exactly. It proved that there was obviously something wrong with him last year with that foot or his toe or ankle, whatever the fuck it was last year. There was something definitively wrong with Robert Quinn. Now, in that second line of defense, you have 3 guys. I like Gibson. Gibson's been, I mean, in a cleanup role for Mac. He showed me a lot. He can cover. He can rush. He's strong. He always, every time I see Roquan make a Smith, Gibson's the next guy right behind him.
Right.
That's what I like. All right. He's going to get his. That's what I like about Gibson. All right. Khalil Mack hopefully comes back healthy. There we go. Hopefully, let's hope he comes back healthy. But you still need that other inside linebacker because you're losing Alec Ogletree due to age. You're not going to re-sign him, and you have to cut tie at this point with Danny Trevathan. He's just too slow. I saw it in preseason. Not even in preseason. I saw it in training camp.
Yeah,
when I was going up to Hallis Hall, I saw it then. Like he's lost not 1, not 2, but 4 steps. He just can't do it no more. Now let's move ourselves to the front line of defense, that defensive line. Like we said, we got Mario Edwards Jr., we have Blackman, we have Kairos Tonga, we have guys like that. I like Kairos Tonga. Eddie Goldman, I don't think wants to play football.
Mario got to go. Mario is the first one that got to go.
I don't mind Mario Edwards.
Things going on with Mario.
Listen, I don't mind Mario Edwards. Whatever he does off the field, hopefully he can tone that shit down. But what he does on the field, I like.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I do. I'm not gonna lie. I like what he does on the field.
Definitely.
All right. I'm an avid dog lover. I got 3 of them sitting in my living room being fucking fat and stupid, lazy, doing their thing. Doesn't make me hate Michael Vick any less than what he did on the field.
Oh, right. But
you know what I mean?
It's like, if you're going to continue to get suspended, though, I can't have you here. You know what I mean?
Right. No, yeah. You got to tone your shit down. Definitely, for sure. All right. Now, and then you get, like I said, Kairos Tonga. I think you're not going to miss Eddie Goldman at all. I think Kairos Tonga has the potential, and I'm not going to say it. But he reminds me of a fucking smaller Vincent Wilfork. He gets past that line. He clogs shit up. He just does his thing.
Right.
He weasels his that fat ass in between that old line.
He's very vocal, and to where Eddie just he just shows up and leaves. Like
Right. Eddie Goldman doesn't want to fucking play football. So on that side on the defensive side alone, man, we just narrowed it down. We need 5. We have to, the Bears, Chicago Bears, and whoever this new GM is, whoever this new head coach is, have to address 5 spots minimum,
right,
on the defensive side of the ball. 5 of 11, dude. You're sitting there batting 40%. That's not good. 45%. You got to fix 45% of your defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good, Mike. You know that just as much as I do. That's not good.
Yeah, as someone who played defense, it changes very quickly. You know, when I was a safety, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at my front 7 every 4 years in high school, and I'm looking at the front. And some years I just be like, man, like I just miss these kids, you know? And
right.
Like you're seeing some dummy freshman sitting there, and I'm like, where's my 18-year-old 350 defensive tackle? Like, where did he go? And you're gonna miss that in Akeem. You're gonna miss that in Danny, because Danny, even though he hasn't been the same, his presence is felt when he is.
Yes, Danny Trevathan's a leader, man. He really is. He's a leader, but you can only do so much being in a leadership role. If you got to be a leader, you have to be able to put it up there. Ray Lewis is the epitome of a leader.
Right.
He was able to do it his entire time in Baltimore. Michael Strahan was a leader. Now I know I'm listing off Hall of Fame caliber talent.
Right. No, but it's
right.
the validity to it is the same, in which it's where like these guys are valid, these guys do what they do, and you take away their game, what the presence they brought, and people even say it all the time. Even interviewers, even guys like me and you, you walk up to Tom Brady and there's this aura around him of, okay, I need to be the best of the best. And if I'm not, shit's not going to fly. And that's how it is. And that's what I only see that in Akeem, and he's not on the field long enough.
Right.
I only see that in Roquan. And even with Khalil tries to get vocal, but he's not vocal at the end of the day. That's just not.
Yeah, Khalil needs just to do his job.
Right. You remember when
the guy that wants to punch in, punch out, and go home. And I appreciate that. I like that. I dig that out of Khalil Mack. But fucking do it and stay on the field long enough to do so.
Like when we saw Kyle Hendricks after the big trades and everything, I saw Kyle Hendricks getting a little bit more vocal, and you could just feel that he hated it. Like he did not want to be that guy. Or Jason Hayward's that guy. That's what he does. It's all he does. But it's something with
that and fucking ground on the double plays and rolling over.
That's all he does. He does not do a single other thing. But yeah, it's with Khalil. I just feel like, you know, maybe you bring in a Hightower. Maybe you bring back Fuller on a cheap year deal, because he's going to be very cheap, very dirt cheap. It was a very bad year. You know, Bryce Callahan, I wouldn't touch. You know, I'm not trying to go back to 2018. You know, I don't want to do too much of that. But it's definitely something to where, you know, you bring in Hightower, who's been with the Patriots and understands like a kind of culture to build. You have Roquan Smith. You have, you know, maybe Tunga continues to thrive and all these other guys thrive. I think you might be able to do something there.
Right. A guy that I like to in the secondary, the free agency that I really truly like is Quandary Diggs. He just got I know he's hurt. I know he just got banged up in that last game with Seattle.
What was the full thing?
He's out for 4 to 5 months.
Right.
He's out 4 to 5 months. Ankle or I'm sorry, fibia. All right, broken fibia. All right, but listen, that fucking dude, he is a leader of that. I mean, as sorry as that defense is, he's a leader up there in Seattle on that defense. And if you stiff him back there and stuff him back there to help out Eddie Jackson on the safety aspect of things, because that's what he is. He's a free safety, strong safety, he plays swing safety. That would be huge for this Bears secondary. Just that one player would be absolutely, I mean, monumentous for this Bears secondary. It'd be huge. Right. Now we go on the offensive side of the football, and here we go again. We're in the same fucking boat. We're losing Allen Robinson, all right, which is fine because you're gonna get a compensatory 3rd round pick for it. I'm okay with that. Cool, give me the 3rd round pick because we need fucking picks now,
very badly.
All right, and what the tight end Cole Kmet. I'm sorry, I'm all static brain right now. Cole Kmet, his fucking cinder block hands drives me nuts. Can't get off of a linebacker. Can't get off of coverage. Catches the ball with his body too much. That's not what we anticipated in drafting Cole Kmet that high.
Right.
That when we could have had Chase Claypool.
Right. And it's one of those situations, though, where I also look at it. I can't even be mad at Cole. What I'm more mad about is Kittle. You know, we take Adam Shaheen instead of George Kittle, and there's all these other situations where it's like, I'm just tired of this. And it was the same presence. And Mike, I know I've heard you talk about it before, is then why did we get rid of Greg Olsen to begin with? You know,
Right.
they can't hang on to somebody for too long. And it's because the McCaskies, in my opinion, don't respect the position. They don't. Just like the quarterback position. They think they could win with defense and running the ball.
Right.
They don't believe in paying
It's
a
not
tight
that
end
time no
money.
more. It's not
Right.
that time no more. And that, like I said, Cole Kmet, he's not cutting it. Jimmy Graham, he's older than fucking he's the guy as old as my dad out there.
Right.
He's ancient. His football time in the league makes him 50 years old out on the field. All right, just allow me between New Orleans, Seattle, Green Bay, now the Bears. His time on the field, he's an old man.
Right.
Now you got Darnell Mooney. I like Darnell Mooney. I've been a huge advocate of Darnell Mooney,
Now
saying
here's my question for you, though, not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
Listen, I love him. He was on my show yesterday, and we talked about it. Patrick Wisdom of the Cubs. We talk about, well, Patrick right now is the face of the Cubs. Is that because there's not as much talent around the Cubs as normal? And is that why we view Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver 1? Or do you truly think on a championship team, Darnell Mooney is your wide receiver number 1?
I truly, with Patrick Wisdom right now, it's the lack of talent that's there with the Chicago Cubs.
Right.
It's him and Frank the Tank. That's pretty much him and Frank the Tank and Wilson Contreras. That's pretty much all they have. All right. Now, what he did last year, having 29 homers and all the RBIs he had, fantastic year, great year. It'll be a career year for Patrick Wisdom.
And that's my thing. That's my thing with Darnell. When there's actual talent around, like Allen, like let's say we go crazy, right? We get Godwin, we get Kirk, and then we bring in these guys, maybe even Chris Olave, whatever we end up doing. Do you think Darnell Mooney is the same guy when there's a bunch of guys in the room?
I think Darnell Mooney, and like I said, I'm glad that you said this. I think Darnell Mooney has every bit of potential, every single bit, speed, IQ for the game, route running. The thing that he has to work on in his hands, and it's something that it's something that limited the receiver that I'm going to mention his first year as well. His first year of being like the legit dude. He has every bit of being as good as Tyreek Hill.
I agree.
That's honestly, in my gut feeling, 100%. I firmly believe that. I have never had so much conviction in a Bears wide receiver in my entire life. I firmly believe 100% that Darnell Mooney has the potential to be Tyreek Hill on this Bears team.
And I think what we're missing, well, not us, but what the media is missing is this. I knew from day one Allen Robinson wasn't going to reach over 500 yards with Justin Fields. And it was for the solely point of what I saw Darnell Mooney doing, and you were at training camp, so you can probably testify to this. When practice ended, Darnell and Justin stayed.
Yep.
Allen went home. And then Allen has the audacity to go on air and say, Nagy wouldn't give me any time with Fields during practice. Well, then fucking stay. Darnell stayed. And Darnell's a rookie going into year 2. And they asked Darnell at the end of the season, what is your next move? What are you going to do in the offseason? He goes, we start tomorrow, me and Justin. Just me and Justin. Just focusing on us. That's fucking everything. Brandon Marshall didn't do that. Alshon Jeffrey didn't do that. Allen didn't do that. I'm tired of hearing guys bitch about not getting time to play together. Darnell Mooney made the time. And he's, let's be real here, Mike. You know, Allen's 29 years old? Darnell's my age. Darnell's like 22 years old. He can be out there with girls. He can be out there partying. He's staying with Justin in the hot sun in Chicago in the summer, and now in the winter still doing their thing. That speaks volumes. A young guy that wants to win.
Right. I mean, listen, like I said, man, I have a big article on our WordPress about what I think that Tyreek Hill could be, what I think that Darnell Mooney could be. Their numbers their first year are almost very fucking close in comparison. And this year, granted, he had 1,000 yards. First drafted Bears wide receiver with 1,000 yards since Alshon Jeffrey. All right. I know that's not saying much. All right. But I mean, when you say it, when he's had fucking Andy Dalton, Mike Glennon, and Justin Fields throwing him the ball all year, that's saying something. With no consistent quarterback play, Darnell Mooney has been consistent. The one thing I legitimately say, and this is brought up to me by my buddy Paul, and I really started watching it when he brought it up to me. Darnell Mooney has to work on these fucking hands.
Yeah,
he's got to work on these hands. He's another one that likes to, at times, catch the ball with his body. And when he tries to catch the ball with the body, it bounces right off his fucking shoulder pads and hits the turf.
Right.
Use your hands. That's why God gave them to you. Justin Fields has a cannon. Justin Fields has a good deep ball, has nice touch. If he can get you the ball and it hits you in the hands, you got to fucking catch that ball. Now I'm calling out Darnell Mooney. I'm calling out Darnell Mooney right now, January 12th, 2022. Next year, I expect 70 catches, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns out of Darnell Mooney. That's what I expect. It's time to take that next step.
And I think the only real way you don't see that is if you get a top tier wide receiver. And the way it's looking, you have Gallup, you have tore his ACL, you have
Gallup, Christian Kirk, you got fucking Godwin, you got Mike Williams.
You look at it like that. Half of the guys you just named tore their ACLs or blew out their knees, so they're going to be missing half the season anyway.
Right.
Darnell has no excuse to me unless Green Bay loses every brain cell and hands us Devontae Adams wrapped up. You have no excuse to me to not have over 70 catches next year.
Jacob Hofstetler again. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Jake. I apologize if I'm fucking butchering it, but he says Mooney has so much talent, but we need a big body wide receiver, a true number one. And now that being said, I want to move on to this. All right, we know what the Bears have in this upcoming draft. We already know where they're drafting. They have the 7th pick in the 2nd round, so they draft 39 overall. In that field, I've done my research, man. And again, I know I'm bringing him up a lot tonight. My buddy Paul, this guy, his family is centralized down there in Arkansas. So when I go to his bar, Nick and Ivy guys, when I go to his bar, we always made a purpose to go on and throw on the Arkansas game. All right. And since his family's down there and him and I are such good buddies and close buddies, even when I'm sitting here at home on a Saturday, I'll throw on the Arkansas game with them against Ole Miss, them again, whoever the fuck they're playing. I always make a point to watch them. There is this kid down there, Mike, and I want everybody who's watching the show, who's going to download the show. I don't even want to say his name in case any of the NFL teams are watching this fucking show, which they're probably not, but just in case. All right. There's this kid down there in Arkansas right now. His name is Treylon Burks. This kid is an absolute fucking monster, Mike. Monster. This kid is unbelievable. 6'3", 6'4", 225 pounds, and fucking just hands that, I mean, if it touches a finger of this kid, it is a secured lockdown catch. And this kid can run like a fucking Mustang. This kid can run like he is unbelievably fast. And his IQ for the game, he's smart. The way he runs his routes and does his digs and does his cuts, and he knows what he's doing. I watched him in a game this year, Mike. He baited this cornerback so fucking filthy. By the time that the ball was released out of Arkansas's hands, out of the Arkansas quarterback's hands, Treylon Burks already had an 11-yard head start on this cornerback.
Right.
I mean, 11 yards, dude. Like, you couldn't fucking miss him. You could have threw the fucking guy one of them big, stupid fucking beach balls that are 20 feet, and the cornerback still wouldn't have had a chance on the ball. Like, that's how ridiculous this kid is. At 39, it's going to be a stretch to try and get this kid. But if you can move up, I know everybody hates that word because we've been doing it so much. This fucking kid is ridiculous. This kid is ridiculous. Again, Jacob Hofstetler again. Burks looks like DK Metcalf 2.0. You aren't fucking joking. This kid is the real deal. And they're projecting this kid to go anywhere between 31 and 38 in this year's draft. You got to make your push to get this kid, because if you have him and Darnell Mooney with Cole Kmet, keep fucking Bird, do what you got to do. I'm telling you, man. This kid's
Bird got an extension the second he had that catch. That's just how the McCaskies are going to roll. But do you think? I don't know how much of the game you actually caught out of Alabama. Jamison Williams, he tears his ACL.
Sad.
We're in a position though where that's fine. Like, we're cool with that because this kid has had no history of injuries.
Right.
This kid has been nothing but a stud coming out of Alabama, top tier talent, playing against top tier talent. We're not in a win now position. And this kid looks farthest thing from Kevin White or any type of situation like that. Do you think you take a chance on Jamison Williams if he drops to the 2nd round? Because if
he drops, man,
up there.
If he drops and he's there, I mean, obviously you have to take a legitimate look at him. Honestly, like that's no bullshit. We know that. We got to take a look at him.
Right.
But the number one cat that I'm looking at, is Treylon Burks, man.
Right. And I definitely hear you on that. But where do you stand? I'm just curious for you and everyone listening. Where do you stand on Olave with Justin?
I like Olave too. I mean, fuck. I mean, I mean, that's the thing of kind of what's going on here. If it's been what the recipes for success, it seems
Burrow
like
and Chase, like
with
that's
Burrow and Chase and Tua and Waddle, and
Mhm.
the list goes on, and it's going along that way. It's ridiculous, but yeah, I mean, I like Olave. I like that. I like Mechie out of Alabama too.
Yes. Yes.
I like him a lot too, and he's projected to be a second round, third round guy, even though he got banged up a little bit this year. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some, and that's exactly what you need. You need that other wide receiver. So do you go out and spend, because we all know that you're going to pay out the ass and pay through the nose in a free agent wide receiver or a free agent safety and cornerback, but you do have to do something in free agency to address all the holes that you have in this upcoming season. But do you go out there and say, okay, fuck the wide receiver position. We're going out and getting Quandary Diggs, and we're grabbing another offensive lineman, because there's a lot of them in free agency this year again. All right. Then there's a couple big monsters, and I'm going to mention him next here. There's a couple big monsters here in this upcoming draft. One specifically I'll mention here in a minute. But there's a lot of big monsters on the free agent side. And you just say fuck it and draft your defensive holes, or do you go out and fix? Whatever else you fucked up on in the draft. Montgomery, he's going to be going here soon.
Right.
His contract is up.
I hate to say it because I hate small sample sizes, but I'm very confident in Khalil Herbert right now.
I think Khalil Herbert can be an every down back. And I thought that when he came out of Vatek.
Like, if David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen want to hold hands on the way out, I will say goodbye to David and I will flip off Tariq, because I'm tired of that whole Tariq Cohen experiment.
You'd have to hold it up real high so we can see it, because he's like fucking 5'2".
Oh yeah, without a question.
Now, in the draft, the other guy that I really like, Mike, I know that we're running a little bit late here, and we're going to cut this thing short here, but another guy that I want everybody to look at here, the guys that are listening, the guys that come on the show and download the show and all that other stuff, and Mike, for you to look at too, is Daniel Falele out of Minnesota, offensive tackle. All right, this kid is a fucking moose. He's 6'9", 380 pounds. The kid is a fucking Oldsmobile, for crying out loud, and he can play swing tackle. So God forbid if you fuck up and Tevin Jenkins isn't the guy with this back injury and Larry Borum has to stay inside and do his guard duty, I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm 100% okay with having Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum on the left side of the line protecting Justin's backside. I'm totally cool with that. But you still need something on the other end. Right. It can't be James Daniels, and you have to address the center position.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. As much as I like Sam Mustipher, and as much as he doesn't kill you, as much as old offensive lineman before in the past, he does hurt you.
See, I don't like Sam. I don't like Sam for the reason is the expectation with Sam. Now, 2020 Sam, I loved him. Undrafted, comes out of Notre Dame. No expectation, no real idea of what this kid's going to be, and he stepped up and he was great. But the false narrative of, oh yeah, this kid's the future now. That's, to me, it was never that. It was just, who did he play well against, Mike? He played well against the Texans, the Jaguars, and a couple other teams. The kid didn't have any sustained success. And when we played Green Bay in the final week, they blew our ass out. And it was because of that fact that Sam Mustipher wasn't ready.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that you're wrong, man. That's one thing that I argued last year too. When you said, when we played the Detroit Lions twice, we played fucking Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you had one game against Green Bay and they fucking,
we were like, oh, we're back. Like, we're not back.
No, you're not back. But then again, you can only play the teams that are on your schedule.
Right.
All right. And I get that. I understand that to the fullest. I mean, listen, man, the Bears have a lot of holes, Mike. They have a lot of holes. And luckily we have a whole entire offseason to see what the fuck they do. And there are two names. Now, that's fine. Let's get this going here. We got our GM. We got to fill. We got a head coach. We got to fill. And now after that's filled, all of us are going to be sitting there, okay, we're going to sit there, stomach it down, whether we like it, whether we love it, whether we fucking hate it. We're going to have to stomach that down and pray to God that GM and that head coach can read and look and what's the word I'm looking for here? It's on the tip of my tongue. Identify what you got to do in the draft and to see what you can do in free agency.
Right.
I know what I want. Over the last 4 years, I've watched guys get taken left and right that the Bears could have had.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them by the Minnesota Vikings. I fucking shit you not. 3 guys the Bears could have had that I wanted. The Minnesota Vikings took.
Mm-hmm. I was waiting for them to trade up and take Justin Fields. I was waiting for it.
I wanted Ezra Cleveland. I wanted fucking Christian Darrisaw. I wanted Alexander Madison. Mm-hmm. All 3 of those guys the Bears could have had, and the Bears fucking missed out on them. All right, and now they're up there in Minnesota. But now here we go, man. This is what we got to do. That's all we can do. Sitting here as Bear fans, we got to sit here and stomach this shit and see what happens going on. My expectations for next year are still relatively low. You can't give Justin Fields a grade on this year because he didn't fucking play. All right, the scheme, the schematic, the play calling was not for Justin Fields.
I'll give him an A for not breaking his ribs. I'll give him an A.
I'll give him an A for not dying on the turf in Cleveland.
Like that's perfectly fine.
All right, and I was at that. I know I said this before. I was at that fucking game, and that was one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life. That was hands down the worst Bears game I've ever watched.
The worst game ever.
It was the worst game I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
Yeah.
But that's what we got to do now, Mike. That's the point we're at. At the end of tonight's show, it's January 12th, 2022. We're talking here. The Bears have fucking 9, 10 GM candidates and 11, 12, 15 head coaching candidates. Hopefully by next week, we can figure out what the fuck is going on. Right. And hopefully we can piece together, okay, boom. We stomach. Now we have this GM. We have this head coach. Let's figure it out. Hopefully they can get together. And now after that, it's all draft prep. It's all going through the draft. You have 1-2. You have 1-3, but by losing Allen Robinson, you're going to get a compensatory third. So you're going to have 2 3s. Right. You have 0 4s. You have 2 5s and 1 6, 0 7s.
And honestly, so I trade those 2 5s for a 4. I really do.
I don't know.
I would.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, honestly, see if you can.
Here's my thing, just real quick. Pace is gone. So the next guy, I don't know if you can draft well later in the rounds.
Right.
That's my thing. So it's like I might as well get the 4 because I don't know if Eddie Jackson's going to come out of the 5th or 6th round. I don't know if Tariq Cohen or Daz Newsome or somebody else that Matt Nagy wasn't going to use anyway is going to come out of the 5th or 6th round. Right. So I'd rather trade it up.
No, I mean, listen, any capital that you can get in this offseason and this going forward, you have to take.
Right.
Depending on what it is. I mean, honestly, you got to try and create yourself some. I mean, you're going to have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Losing Akeem Hicks, losing Allen Robinson, you're going to have a lot of money. Figure it out, spend it wisely, splash in free agency on at least one big name. Hopefully it's a big name in the secondary. Splash there. That's the splash that we need. And then figure it out going forward. You have to be able to draft these guys. You got to be smart. And I mean, that's exactly where we're at, Mike. That's where we're at. So until next week, man, hopefully you can join me again next week. It'd be a lot of fun having you on.
No question.
And we'll touch base on it and we'll talk more about it then. Hopefully by next week we have a head coach and a GM that we're happy about. Hopefully we can start piecing together what the Bears plan is going forward based on what they go here. Right. Honestly, on what they do here in this next week and a half with GM and coach. So on that note, Mike, thank you for joining me. A special thank you again tonight to Brendan Sugrue for joining us from the Midway Minute and from the Bear Down Report. Guys all over the place. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, Nick and Ivy, Jonathan Darren, Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group, August Doozer, Susie Sheehan, White Oak Farm Venue, Berardi Law. You guys are awesome, and without you guys, this show does not happen. Thank you to all of the guests that came in and chimed in on the show tonight. I really do appreciate it. Guys, please go to the 1252 YouTube page, like and subscribe, because when you guys comment, I don't see all your comments. I don't see your names. So please go to the YouTube page. Mike, where can my guys find you at?
You can find me, Mike on the Mic Podcast. You can find it on TikTok, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And yes, I said TikTok. Please don't hate me for it. Just respect it. It's definitely something that's coming up. You can find me on the ASAP Network. I'm on the ASAP Network. It's on Facebook page, Roku TV, a bunch of places. I'm on there mainly in the mornings on weekdays and sometimes at night. So you can find me there at the ASAP Network or on Mike on the Mic Podcast. And hopefully you can find me here at 1252 a lot more because it was a blast. Thank you for having me on, man. It was an honor. And Brendan, thank you again for speaking with us today.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Everybody, you take care. Everybody kick ass and bear down. Until then, hopefully they don't fucking disappoint us. We'll talk then, guys. Take care.
They will.